Okie dokie. Thank you, Ian. Recorded has started. So thanks everyone for coming to the meeting of the Environmental Committee tonight. I've got apologies from Chris Evans, co-opted member, Councillor Chris Evans, Peter Jones, co-opted member. And we've also got apologies, sadly, from Natasha Dodds from the Big Climate Leap Forward, who sadly is unwell tonight, and she was due to come and give us some information. But I think that we'll roll that forward to next month, if that's okay. I think I'm really keen to find out more about that project. Sounds really exciting. Lydia?
I've sent her an email to check her availability, so we don't need to do that. I've already done it.
Oh, thanks, Lydia. Great. So I'm not got apologies from anyone else, but I can see that Rebecca doesn't seem to be here. She's normally very good.
She's just back from holiday, or might even be still on her way back.
Okay, so should we just note apologies for
Rebecca?
And at the last full council meeting, Amelia, the new councillor, Amelia Cox, was decided to be on this committee. So I think, you know, it's very short notice for her to come tonight. So what I'll do is, Ian, can you just make sure that Amelia has got all the dates, if that's okay?
I will, yeah.
Yeah, and in the agenda, I think it said about Will Thomas. So just to clarify, the Will Thomas isn't a part of the committee, and I think he just popped along for an item in July, didn't he? So just to make sure that I've not had apologies from Will, but we were not actually expecting him to be here tonight.
Okay.
Is that all okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that's apologies. Declarations of interest, anyone? Anything on the agenda? Okie dokie. Right, minutes of the last meeting, and I really like the new the format you've got of tracking the actions, Ian and Kerry. Thanks for doing that. I like that.
So if I can just say, it's slightly changed, Helen. It's the same sort of format, but rather than having different action plans each month, it's all going to be on one table, which I have put on the Teams under the files. And there's only 3, I think, from last month.
Yeah.
So you know, we'll go through those separately, but it is. I think it'll be a good system. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Kerry.
Sorry, so just to come in there, the idea of the action tracker is that it's just a snapshot for councillors of the actions from the previous meetings, progress, and then if there's anything substantial that we need you to make a decision on, that will have its own agenda item on the evening. So it's literally just like a report for noted, basically, just so you're kept abreast. And then at the end of the year, this will feed into the annual report that we have to write about what the committees have done each year.
When it says update, do I need to write an update on what
the person who's got the actions writes the update?
If it was my action.
If it was your action, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I think under minutes, what I wanted to note was I think Martin Russell is due to come to the November meeting. I only because 3 months. The last time he came was July, and 3 months after July is November. But now, as we're having Natasha Dodds to the November meeting, I don't know, Kerry, if you know the conversations you've had with him, if it's easier for him to come in December, that's no problem, but whether committee members would like him to come 3 months, and that would make it November. Kerry? Mute.
I would think it's extremely unlikely we'll be having a meeting in December. I believe it would be on Christmas Day.
I think we have arranged one, haven't we, Ian? Not on Christmas Day, thank God. We'll all be relaxing, hopefully, and terribly drunk and tired by that point. But Ian, we have put a meeting in. Can you just remind us, or?
Yes.
It's much earlier, Carrie. We've put it in much earlier because I put the budget in. I think we felt that we really wanted to get that in place.
So when is it?
So Ian will find the date. But do you feel
it's the 11th of December? 11th of December.
Thank you. Thank you. So do you feel, guys, that you'd be happy for Martin to come to that one and give the space in November for Big Leap Forward?
Fine by me.
I tell you what, Lydia, what you could do is maybe if Natasha can't do the November date, offer the 11th of December, and we'll fit Martin around it if that's okay with him. Okie dokie. So in terms of minutes, are they everyone happy that they're a correct record? Yep. Let me just switch over to the next. I can see Sarah and Mike. Yeah. Okay, fab. Matters arising or actions from the last meeting. The Castlewood stuff is going to come up on the agenda. That's all been actioned. The gazebo is the Klein gazebo is half in action, where that's still in process, where we're exploring options of whether Friends of Klein Garden can take on the planning application. So there's nothing to report on that, but we have been in conversation with them, so we're halfway through that. And I've done nothing about approaching Down to Earth about including a question, just simply because I'm just too busy. And I just wondered whether the committee still felt that was important, or if somebody else wanted to pick it up. If you remember, this was in relation to when we go live with our off-stream redevelopment plans. I think we were suggesting to ask one extra question around what other environmental improvements do people want to see in Mumbles Village. I suggested it, but I've just not been able to get to it. Sorry, Carrie, then Ed.
I think it's something we should do. I mean, this is a real opportunity. But you know, perhaps rather than you doing it, I would imagine it's just a matter of asking Down to Earth to include a question in their next round of consultation. I would think. I don't think it needs us to do anything separate, because that would seem to be a lot of work for nothing, really.
Yeah. Does somebody want to be delegated to approach Down to Earth? Kerry.
We'll drop them an email tomorrow for you.
Oh, thank you, Kerry. Okay. That's so kind.
No problem. I'm in correspondence with them anyway, weekly, so that's fine.
Oh,
sorry to jump in there, Ed.
No, that's great. And I hope I can see your wrist now. I hope your wrist is improving.
Still in the splint, unfortunately.
Crumbs. Ed. Hi, Ed. Mute. Ed, you're on mute. Oh. Ed. Oh, try again. Try again. We can't hear. Have you got a sticky mute? Aha.
Oh, that's it.
Got it. It was, I don't know whether this was the right place or time to come in, but something triggered off with the talk about the gazebo, which is in Klein. Is that right?
So it's proposed, Ed, that to replace the plastic shelters with a kind of rustic wooden sustainable construction. So we're quite progressed in the designs, and we're doing this with Tavion and Chris Evans and Coeden Vach and there's a little group of us. But we've just found out, they initially said we didn't need planning, but we've now found out, we pressed them to be 100%, and they've come back and said we do need planning. And our discussion at the last meeting was whether this project is something that's best led by Friends of Klein Gardens as opposed to MCC. We've got the money, MCC's got money, and Friends of Klein have put money in, and Chris Evans has put money in. So we've raised the money we need. It's just this next stage now. I just wonder whether Friends of Klein would have the wherewithal and the focus. So that's what we're exploring with them.
Okay. What I wanted to say was it's a bit of a swerve away from the gazebo. But if you remember in lockdown, the caravan appeared further up, the tea hut caravan. Yep.
Yeah.
And it was up the top, closer to the old castle, Klein Castle area, and they were running their electricity on a generator, which worked for them, but it was really noisy in the quiet of the Klein. And since they moved it down, they've got power connected from the toilets in Klein, and now they're running on mains electricity. And it brought to mind another thing I raised in another committee somewhere else, that when you're having events in Castle Green, Castle Green, Castlefield, such as the Mumbles Fest and all that, you're going to have a lot of generators there providing power, which is noisy, polluting, and not working with the our aims with the carbon neutral, net zero. So is there a possibility you could look into providing a power to Castlefield in order to provide power for the events that go on there, rather than have people come in with their own generators, whether they be diesel or petrol? I know it's a bit of a swerve, but sorry, shoehorn it in.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Ed. Carrie. And then Mike.
There are two power sources at the moment, one up sort of behind where they put the stage and one down by the public toilets. So the majority of power can be sourced from there. But I believe there are some of the things that can't use those because of distance or whatever. So although it's better than it was because most of them are being used, it's certainly something that we should speak to the guys who did the power for us, I think Total Sounds, about any ideas they have as to how we can improve, and perhaps by putting in some additional power sources in different areas of the field. But certainly I agree we should be avoiding any generators coming into Castlefield completely.
Do we know the electricity source that the castle or the council would use? Do we know if they've signed up to a green energy supplier?
EDF, I believe, from what Paul said about Ostream, because Ostream are on the same system. And I have raised this with Paul and suggested it might be worth him investigating whether we can use Gower Power instead. So he was going to look into comparing the prices.
Yeah, I use Octopus at home. That's a green energy supplier.
Yeah, we had Octopus, but now we've signed up with Gower Energy because it's from Gower.
Yeah. So you mean like so you mean it's EDF now? But
yeah,
the preference is Gower Power. Obviously, Gower Power is much more preferential. And this is a bit of a random one now, right? But I've been at festivals like the Royal Welsh Show. My friend used to run this, and you have cycle bikes. You have two like exercise bikes. Have people seen this? And you cycle the exercise bike, and it generates green energy for your stall. It's a massive like novelty. People absolutely love it, and you end up on competitions. And so you have this kind of green, it doesn't create green energy for the whole event, but it is a bit of a funny little kind of thing that demonstrates the importance of renewables. And maybe that's something to pick up separately with Mumbles Fest next year. Mike.
Yeah, it's a good point about the generators, diesel generators. I think it's a really good point. And there is just, you're aware, lots of other different options that I say lots of different options. There are different options you can go with, even hydrogen generators. So you could get hydrogen tanks to site and actually fuel the whole event through hydrogen generators as well. So I've got contacts if we need to do and investigate that, if that's an option.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I mean, this is something I'm clueless at this sort of technical stuff. So it'd be great to follow up with you on that if that's okay.
Great. Yeah, no worries at all.
Yeah, Sarah next. Yeah, I can see you. Don't worry.
I was waving my hand, Fran. Yeah, I think this is something that I'm glad Ed brought up, because they're going to bring it up with a big leap, aren't they? Because that's something they'll be looking at, is all these events and how we make them greener. So yeah, that's great, and we should run it past them, because I'm sure they'll have some brilliant ideas to work with us to help us to change for it to be greener. I love the idea of the bikes. I think it might not work to help, as you said, for everyone, but it's a good way of showing people energy has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And how much energy it takes just to light up a bulb or something.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's a good idea. I like that. Thanks.
No, thanks, Sarah. Kerry.
That was me. Could we make a point of putting agenda for when Natasha comes and maybe we can discuss it?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah,
Discuss it with her.
yeah.
And
just in
then
case
it's
people-
linked to the big climate leap, and it might be a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, you're slightly going in and out. Sarah was shaking her head, but I think we got you. We definitely got the point. Okay, so minutes are okay. Matters arising, actions arising. That was a useful discussion. Thanks, Ed. That was a very tangential way of raising it, Ed, but I think it worked a treat.
Jump in.
So I like that sort of committee input. Okay, so next we're going to go to budget underspends, and I'm going to give just a really little tiny overview of this, and then I'm going to ask Carrie to come in with any additions then from Kerry, if that's okay. Just in case Kerry wants to add anything. Carrie, are you okay with that plan if I just introduce and then you pick it up?
Are we saying Carrie or Kerry? Or both?
I said
or neither?
Carrie first, then Kerry. So Carrie,
Okay.
I'll introduce it. You'll give the bulk of what we're doing, and then Kerry, if there's anything you want to add to clarify some of the figures, and we can respond to questions. So the last meeting, Carrie talked about her desire to improve the currently sort of quite degraded paths in Castlewoods and Washing House Brook Lane, and we went with a proposal to full council, which was accepted, a recommendation that we, Carrie and myself, meet with Paul to look. Oh, sorry, do you want to come in? Sorry, I've started off and you've still got your hand up. You're on mute. Is it relevant to the item?
Yeah, well, it was. I was just going to say, and Washing Brook.
I did say Washing Brook. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was going to make that point because it doesn't refer to it, and I will make that clear.
Yeah, but so hopefully, so with both things, Castle Pass and Washing House Brook Lane. So council passed a recommendation to look at any underspends in the council budget, starting with the environmental committee underspends, to look at whether we could put some money towards the scheme. So Carrie is going to be applying for a scheme to the landfill tax. It would need match funded, so that's why we need money. We need match funding the tune of 20k to lever in about 70k. Carrie will update me on the figures when I finish talking. We met, so that was agreed by full council. If we couldn't find underspends, they agreed that the money would come from our budget next year. But actually we had a fantastic meeting with Paul, and what we've been able to do is there's underspend from last year on this committee, quite substantial underspends in some areas, like the cleansing contract, civic amenities. And what we were able to do is to find the underspends from last year's Environment Committee, which the full 20,000, which could go to match funding. So Carrie, do you want to take over at this point and just explain in a bit more detail, if that's okay?
Okay, right, yeah. If you remember, the agreement that was approved at full council was that council agreed to us match funding the Castlewoods and Washing House Brook paths application to the tune of £20,000 that would be ring fenced in next year's budget unless there was sufficient underspend identified this year. And as Helen said, we were lucky that we've been able to find it. So the figures, this is all nothing taken away from this year. So I want to make that absolutely clear. We're not talking about taking anything out of any of our this year's budgets. This is money that was carried forward from last year for us potentially to use, but which in fact it's unlikely we're going to use because the sums are such that we won't actually need them. So if you see it's green, pink and blue. Unfortunately, because of the way Teams works, I can't have both the agenda and the spreadsheet up at the same time because you have to close one to open the next one. But if we basically what it is civic amenities, because, I mean, it was really a kind of hangover from COVID, that because nothing was done then, we've had 2 years worth of civic amenities budgets that were completely unspent. So that amounts to £14,700. So the bulk of that money we have been able to actually earmark now for the match funding for Castlewoods and Washinghouse Brook, because we still have £7,000 in this year's budget for civic amenities. So we're not losing what we wanted to spend for this year. We're just not needing that underspend from previous years. Okay. So the cleansing SLA, that is just a by chance underspend, as it were. Because there was a time during the SLA last year when Swansea Council didn't have an operative and therefore were not able to provide the service, we got a refund on the SLA. So that's what that £2,178 is. It's the refund for when the work wasn't being done. Community Orchard, again, this is money that's carried forward from last year. We have money for this year, and we have sufficient, we feel, for what we need to do in the orchard this year without having to call on any of that underspend from last year. And the last bit is the grass verge scheme, which the plans were to progress this into further areas, but we seem to be focusing more now on wildflower seeding and bulbs rather than the wildflower turf. So again, this is an underspend from left from last year that we felt was not going to be needed, because we're not going to be doing that scheme in the same way in the future, because we've found alternative ways of using that money. So that means that we have been able to identify £20,000 worth of underspend without affecting our this year's budget at all. So that's great. And the last bits are obviously some things which are held back from last year we want to retain, because we feel these are still projects, although we might not be able to do them this year, or not all of them, they are things which we still value and we think are important, and that we want to retain that funding in order to be able to progress them. So those main ones are the recycling bins, which we are still hopeful. We're having slight disagreements with Swansea Council at the moment as to whether we can or can't put them where we want to put them. We have identified the spaces. I think really it's just a matter of pinning down the relevant people at Swansea Council and actually progressing that, and we should be able to get those done. That's to cover West Cross area. That's where the funding is. Has been earmarked and was going to be done last year. So hopefully, and I know Sarah and Rebecca are very keen to be able to get this progressed across West Cross. Klein Gardens gazebo, Helen's already spoken about that. You know, we want to hold that money because that we're hoping will be able to be passed to friends of Klein Gardens to put together with the rest of the money to be able to get that progressed and hopefully something built. The e-cargo bike, that's something I know is close to Ed's heart. We just felt this is something that is appearing to become more and more important. You know, as you know, we are getting we've got a 20-mile-an-hour limit restriction now all over Mumbles, so there's no benefit whatsoever in having a diesel van driving round, because the e-cargo bike can go just as fast.
Or faster, as you say.
Or faster, indeed. Although no, it's not allowed.
Oh,
it
yeah,
still has
that's true.
to stick to the limit. Don't encourage them to go faster. And and can, of course, you know, nip backwards and forwards as and when's needed. We've got this veg box scheme which has been raised. Again, you know, that would be an ideal thing. All the local veg box schemes from all across Gower who want to deliver in Mumbles can all bring them to a central drop-off point. E-cargo bike loads them up, delivers them. You
And
know,
we
we're
think
losing buses.
Martin.
We're no
Martin.
longer, sorry?
And we were thinking Martin Russell could use it with his groundsperson role.
Martin Russell, yep, I'm coming to that. I'm working
Sorry.
through the options.
Sorry.
We're about to lose buses that come down Mumbles, come down Newton Road. We're losing half our bus service. The buses that used to come from backwards and forwards along Mumbles Road and up and down Newton Road are all being cut.
That's so crap, isn't it?
I know. An e-cargo bike people could come down to the village, get their shopping, leave it with the e-cargo bike, and then instead of having to wait an hour for a bus or a bus that doesn't even exist, they can walk home. The shopping gets delivered for them.
I think this is quite
And
a
then
big
Martin, you know, instead of Martin using his van, which, you know, again is, you know, is polluting, e-cargo bike, he can stick all his tools and kit in there, whiz backwards and forwards around all the different sites without it having an environmental impact. So
Thanks,
that's
Harry.
why we want to hang on to it.
Yeah, that's really great, that overview.
Yep.
I want to move us on because there's quite a few people with their hands
Yeah,
there.
just to finish off, there's a few bits, as you can see, only a small amount, 3,346, which actually is spare. So if there's anything we want to do this year that, you know, we could use that money for, or if there's any of the budget lines that we need a little bit more for, that is available for us to use.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did mention to Lydia, thank you, Carrie. I did mention to Lydia about that being could go towards Jubilee Gardens. Anyway,
Yep.
the e-cargo bikes I think is potentially really exciting. I think we need to unpick that, and maybe we could do. I think that needs a discussion in its own right.
Absolutely.
Whether we put that on the agenda of November, December, I think that needs a bit more discussion. But anyway, there's a lot there. Ed, then Sarah.
I'm really pleased to hear the e-cargo bike coming back into the conversation. I did write a report on it, and it's lodged there somewhere for people that may be not aware of it to have a look at. What we didn't have was a financial model, a business model, how it would work. But there's two things I know. There's one thing I know for sure, that Business Wales was very supportive and very keen on the idea, and they were happy to put in finance and guidance and all sorts of things like apprenticeships and things like that. So there's quite a seam there to mine. Yeah. And also I wonder whether one of your councillors, Tim Zhu, would be able to have a look at it and see if he could shed some light on a funding, on a business model, given his background as he's lecturing in business and finance.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Sarah.
Hi. First off, yeah, as much as I love the idea of Martin cycling around, I think his van is usually, Lydia probably say, pretty stocked with the stuff he needs from. Because, I know myself as a gardener, you can get halfway down somewhere to do it, and then you realise you've left tools behind. And that's a waste of energy and our time. I think he'll probably be using his van more often than not because he's got everything he can in there. The other thing I was going to ask is, could some of the 3,000 and odd be used for buying pots? We can get eco pots, but to start off seedlings in the new greenhouse when it gets put up, for various green projects around the area, including planting up our different spaces where we need plants. It will save us money long term. It's great for volunteers for when it's raining because they're nice and warm in the greenhouse planting stuff up. And it would be great as well. It will fit in with the ethos of that area of what we were supposed to be doing, because we can help Lyndon start off veg and things and various other people. if that was possible, or if
Yeah.
Lydia and Martin could use some of their budgets towards it, that would be great as well.
You know, 'cause what pots do you mean? You just mean small little
that we were
stumps
looking
of-
up because we're going to do bulb planting for one of the warm hubs, and you can get bamboo ones. That
So I was just wondering if people, I don't know, I always have loads of spare. I just wonder whether we can
I
encourage
use
people
them
to
year
donate
after
them.
year, so I haven't got.
Yeah.
I'm keeping mine.
Fine,
Okay.
let's park that. I think that's a sensible idea. So let's park that for the moment. So in terms of what Carrie needs then, so Kerry, can you advise us on what we need to do? Do we need to pass any recommendations, or is everything needed? Because Carrie needs to make that application to. So can I just tie those ends up? So in terms of what Carrie Townsend-Jones needs to do to get that application in, what do we need to do anything, Kerry, to document anything?
No, so all you need to do is confirm back to council that you've managed to find the funding within the previous year's savings. So there's no requirement for budget from this budget setting period. But you've got a resolution from full council in the last meeting that you could do the task that you've undertaken. So that's completely fine. So Carrie can progress with her application. I'm quite happy with that.
Brill, thanks, Kerry. And so my second question is, I do think it's quite important to explain to full council where we found the money from, because there were a couple of comments, which I think are understandable comments at the full council meeting, where people were saying, well, if Environment Committee can find 20k, they've got too much money. Well, we know that our whole budget this year is 20k. So I feel it's important to explain the way Carrie did to us in full council that money hasn't come just because we're sloshing around loads of money this year. It's come from like this very specific like cleansing budget anomalies and things like that. So what's the best way to do that, Kerry? Is that
so if Carrie's happy because she explained it so succinctly in this meeting very clearly, that we would just put an agenda item on the next full council meeting for Carrie just to provide the update coming back from Environmental Committee and to explain to members where the budget has come from and that there's no requirement for the budget setting process for this current year. If that's
Brilliant.
okay, Carrie. Sorry to nominate you.
No, I'm really happy with that. Brilliant. And I'm sure Carrie will be fine with it. He's nodding and smiling anyway. And then finally, Kerry, so do we need to make any, in terms of the other bits of that money, like that 3.5 grand that's go, you know, the ring fence is going to go back into this committee, do we need to make any formal note of that the committee agrees with the recommendations made by Paul in that paper?
So what will happen now is the rest of the additional ones that we spoke about in the meeting, i.e. the cargo bike and everything else, a report will come from this committee to full council with your recommendations to ring fence them. Because I don't know if you're aware, only full council have the power to approve earmarked reserves and carry forward amounts. So therefore, that would be a report to go to full council for full council to sign off, and we can put that in for the next meeting. And I'll take that action to write that report for you.
Oh, Kerry, thank you so much. You've been a doll. Honestly, I really appreciate it. Okay, sorry, you've still got your hand up before we move off this item. Is it an old hand? Okay, right. Is there anything further that we need to say to close that item up? No, okay.
Sorry,
Mike?
yeah, just take a vote on the additional items that you're going to be carrying forward. And sorry, Mike, if you want to come in.
No, I was just going to say, are we going to vote on it first of all? Was one of my points, is that, so good point that, and secondly, my point was also when we look at budgets as well for this committee, I think it's actually important to highlight as well that the budget for this committee should be going the other way around, going forward with everything that we need to achieve and do, because it should be high on everybody's agenda to make sure that that we're doing the right things.
Brilliant, Mike. I think we all wholeheartedly agree, and it's great to hear you say that. So shall we take a vote first then, that the funds as outlined in Paul's paper are carried forward in the manner that's been outlined? Who's for? So let me just check. Carries, yeah, that's
Yeah, it was unanimous, so it was carried, yeah.
Thank you. Fantastic, righty-ho. On to the next item, which is budget, sort of the outturn. Kerry, are you in a position to just present this paper, or is anyone from the staff team in a position to present this paper?
It's a different document.
Yeah, sorry, just bear with us 1 second. Right, I think there's been a bit of confusion on the wording of the agenda because we've got the outturn report was for last year, which you've just discussed those figures on. The next report is a budget monitoring report that's been included with the agenda pack, which takes us to the 31st of August this year. So can you just bring that a bit forward? Sorry, I can't see. Yeah, okay. So it's just basically telling you your position as to where you are. So the actual budget for this committee for the full year was 29,100. To date, up until the 31st of August, you've only actually spent £4,793. Again, though, obviously we're coming towards the end of October, so technically you could divide your 29,100 by 12 and times it by the 10 we're at to give you a rough idea of how much you potentially could have spent. But again, when we have our next meeting, you'll be discussing what items you want to include in the budget for next year and what items you want to bring forward. And the only suggestion I'm going to make here to this committee is that you look at increasing your bulbs and wildflower planting budget, because £500 is quite low for what we're trying to achieve. You know, I've got councillors putting in from their own budgets. I've got Lydia and Martin chipping in from their budgets. And I just think if we're going to give this committee the resources it needs, and that is one of the things that I would suggest that you guys you look at increasing. But again, in the next meeting, you'll be able to go through your budget line by line and bring forward what you want to do. And also, if anybody's got any budget proposals for the committee, bring them forward as well.
Yeah, so we'll put that on the agenda for the November meeting. In terms of the outturn, sorry, you just had your hand up. What did you want to come in on?
Just basically that, yes, Lydia and Martin put money into from their budget. I suggested they did, because it was such, we didn't realise 500, nothing for bulbs for the amount that we're doing in different places. And we know it's a real win-win and people love it. It's great for biodiversity. I don't need to sell it to you lot, you know, and people physically see it. And that's so good for us because it's something they can see that we're doing. So I think it's worth investing quite heavily in it.
Yeah.
And it's only for the first few years, they'll spread.
Yeah.
So,
I think what it would be worth doing between now and the next, sorry, the dog's coming in. Hang on. Sorry, what is worth doing between now and the next meeting is I'll look through those budget lines of the current budget, and I think we need to identify where we think we're going to have any underspend, because I think at the civic communities we can definitely spend that. We just need to organise ourselves. You know, we've had a bit of a chat, Lydia, and about Martin needing tools and equipment. He needs to order them. He needs to be clear what he needs. That needs a conversation with Kerry. And that stuff needs to be ordered, because there's £4,000 in Lydia's budget and there's £4,000 in Martin's budget. They've got delegated powers over. And then I know Lydia's got lots of, there's lots going on with Jubilee Gardens at the moment, and you know, looking at making some funding applications. Well, if we can put, you know, I think we just need to organise ourselves to spend the money and to get the practical stuff done. That's always a challenge, isn't it? So can I make a plea for people to look at that budget, and if anyone sort of feels in particular there's spend there that isn't going to be realised, is to flag it at the earliest opportunity so we can reallocate it if necessary, and not to leave it to the end of the year. Does that make sense? Is there any other questions on our position?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Carrie, you've got your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, one thing which we do need to address is the fact that we've got 3,800 overspend on bottle fillers. So we need to be aware that we need to find that from somewhere. In fact, the bulk of what we've spent is an overspend.
I thought we'd already dealt with that in previous.
We dealt with some of it, but I don't think we identified all of it. I know there was something to do with shared space, but I'm not entirely sure where that is. I don't. So we do need to just get clarification as to how we're going to cover that 3,800.
Carrie, can you follow that up possibly with Kerry and with Paul?
Yeah,
Because I
okay.
think
I'll do
Right,
my
that's
best.
yeah, that's quite a chunk, and maybe bring an update to the next meeting. And the other action, I think, which we keep rolling forward, is for Martin to put those little Mumbles Community Council signs on the bottle fillers. We
I
literally
spoke
say
to-
that almost in every
To Lydia
meeting.
about that. Sorry, there are a couple of other things I think we do need to urgently flag up.
Okay, before we do that, Carrie, can I just say then, Kerry, would you be able to take her as an action that for that to be like sort of towards the top of Martin's to-do list? Because I feel that people use them every day and they don't even know that we've put them in.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Especially the
Sarah,
9-1.
Carrie, before you come in, Sarah's had her hand up.
Yeah, I just want,
Yeah,
there was
just
some more
to
things
say-
on the budget. I'll
Yeah,
come back to them.
we're still on the budget, so don't worry.
Sorry, Helen, it's like herding
No,
cats, isn't
No,
it?
go on, you go on.
Can I just say, be aware that we might find out that we have other financial ups because we're doing the big leap. There might be things that they want to put us in place that will go, oh, we need a budget for that. So it might be worth us being conservative about getting rid of more money. And I think Mike's right in that. We might need to go up rather than down and be strong about it.
I think it's an excellent. Carrie, keep going.
Yep. It's just, I think this is for Lydia probably. Flora in schools. Have all the schools now had the money, or did you not get planting plans back from them all?
Can we cover that under Lydia's update? Because it's
okay.
More than
it's just because it's in the budget. So
yeah.
And yeah, other than that, we just have got to get on and crack on and get these things done.
Sorry, Tom's just come in from Youth Club. Lydia, anything you want to respond? Anything you want to respond on
that? Yeah, only the environmental schools one. One school it's been a bit of a process trying to figure out whether we can actually pay them and how we can pay them. But I've had 2 applications. One school has accepted the funds and Paul should have sent the money. The other school I'm trying to get back in touch with. Newton School have asked me if there's any environmental things that they can be involved in. So I've resent them the application. And last week I tried ringing all the schools, couldn't get through to any of them, left voicemails on all of their inboxes. So I've been trying to get through to the schools, but it's just, you never get through to the right person, do you? I've emailed East Scotland Dairy, Helen.
Yeah, they were really keen. I spoke to Mrs. Trick and she instantly told me something they were wanted to do but didn't have the money for, to do with some planting at the front and raised beds. So she gave me her email, but it hasn't worked, so I'll have to double check that. So I think in terms of the context of the budget discussion, which is where we are at the moment, I think we need to work on the basis that we're going to try and spend that money with the schools. So I think let's work on the basis that that money isn't available for anything else, and we're going to work hard to give that to the school.
Yeah, I was
we
just
haven't until the end of the
that we're
financial
going to
year.
get through to the end of the year and the money won't have been spent. That's why I raised it.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Mike?
Yeah, I'll keep trying.
Oh, thanks, Lydia. Mike?
Yeah, Lydia, I think, I don't know whether he reaching out to in Grange, but they've got a new headmaster in Grange, so maybe that's why maybe not getting through there. So I can give you that information if you want that.
Yeah, if you could send me the contact details, that'd be great. Thank you.
Mike, do your children go to the Grange?
My one child does. Yeah.
You know what? It makes a huge difference because when I went to the school and I spoke to Mrs. Trek in Llwynderw, and you could tell she had no clue. Like Lydia had sent 3 emails. I think I just think they're swamped on there. And I think if you could go to the school, Mike, and anyone who's got any links with any of the schools, and that's what Will has done. That's why Newton has come back now. Mike, if you could go to the school, to Grange, and just say, look, there's £500 for a green project, and get it on their radar, and say Lydia will resend the email.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I'll do exactly that. I'm on the school run next on Thursday, so I will be popping my head in there.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I think because they'll know you, and I just think the emails and inboxes, I think it's overload, isn't it, for them? And
yeah, definitely.
Can I get us off this budget item? So we're going to look at the lines. We're going to look at where we think there's going to be underspends, and we need, I think, at the next meeting to get some spending through full council. So at the November meeting, I want us to have lots of recommendations on the agenda of things that are going to be spent outside of the delegated authority. That's okay. So any ideas, let's just exchange them on email, okay, or on Teams. Is there anything else under, so where are we? So the budget next year.
Okay,
think,
so
go on, Kerry.
sorry, Helen. Do you want to speak to this, or do you want me to speak to this?
You can do it.
Okay, so obviously I think the purpose of putting this on the agenda was to start focusing your minds for what you want to set for your budget for next year. As we've already said, if you've got any budget proposals, you need to bring them forward, send them to Ian ready for the next meeting. They all have to be with Paul by the 30th of November anyway, so that he can take them all forward. But I just think it's good for the committee to discuss them to agree which ones they're going to take forward, because 4 of you may put 1 in each, and you may only agree to take 2 of them forward. So I think it's good for the committee to have the discussion. I also feel that for the next meeting, I would like to ask Paul to come along, so he's fully in the budget setting process as well, when you're having your discussions, because he will have more up-to-date information than what we've potentially got here. So again, it's just an agenda item to focus your minds and to really make you start thinking about your budget setting process for next year. Mike, is that a legacy hand, or did you want to come in?
Legacy. I like to be a
Okay.
legacy.
I'll lower it down for you now, okay?
That's fantastic, Kerry. So I would like to work on the basis that our budget for next year is, as a basis, what's in the budget for this year. We don't want to see any erosion of that, do we? Kerry's already suggested more money with bulbs, which is true, which I think is a great point, because I feel like Males is £125 to spend on bulbs, and Tim Zoo puts a bit of an extra. It's just not enough, is it? So we're looking at the baseline of what we got now. We're looking at increasing the wildflower bulb planting to figure unknown, but that will be increased. And I think then the meeting with Natasha on the Big Leap, that will give us further steer, won't it, on where we need to go. And is that enough for tonight in terms of repeating everything we're doing this year and upping the ante on bulbs, and depending on what Natasha gives us some steer around?
And depending on what proposals you guys bring forward yourselves as well, for any initiatives or any extra money that you want to put into current projects we've got on the go, for example, because we've got lots of projects on Lydia's plate, and I really do feel that for the council, the next 2 years at least, the next biggest project is going to be the Off-Stream Centre. So what we don't want to be doing is overloading on new projects and initiatives, and going forward when we've still got things that we need to do, and we've still got legacy work that we need to work on from people who were in post before Lydia as well.
Yeah. So Kerry, and I'll bring Carrie in a moment, but say for instance, we've put for the first time in our budget this year, right, as a gardener's question time event. It was my idea to went through the whole budget thing. It's in there. It's only £500 or 1,000, something really small. So if we want that to go into next year, do we have to re-submit it, or can we just assume that it's in there?
So when is that event likely to take place financially? Would it be March, April, or?
Yeah, it's in the current financial year, but towards the end of the financial year.
Okay, so it would be at the end of, let's say you do it in March. So therefore, the way the accounting process would work is that you would wait for your invoice, and because we're the way we do our accounting, you can do a accrual for it for the expenditure for next year. So therefore, that means that when you pay it, it doesn't come out of your next year's budget. However, if you get to, I don't know, let's just say something happens and you don't get to launch in March, but you want to carry it forward, you need to make that request now to council, that if it's not spent by the end of the financial year, it is either ring fenced into an earmark or carry forward. And now the caution I have to give you here is when you carry forward an amount, that comes off what you're precepting for the next financial year. So if you, so like, instead of how can I say it? So instead of putting that amount in, you're actually reducing down by £1,000 what you would be requesting on your precept, and that's the way how carry forwards work. They work as savings within your budget. So my advice would be that you request to ring fence it if it's not, if your event doesn't take place. However, if it's something, if this is one of the projects that you're keen to get up and running in the next 4 or 5 months, then I suggest that it's something that we start working on straight away.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So Lydia and I have met to discuss it, and we definitely think it will be run this month, this year. What I was meaning was, if we wanted to, as an example, if we wanted to run that next year again, and we're setting our budget, do we assume because it's in the budget this year that we don't have to make another case from scratch, or would I have to make a case from scratch?
No,
to
so
say,
you wouldn't have to make a case from scratch because your budget's there. You made your case.
Yeah.
For it. So
sorry, yeah.
So what the discussion would be this year is whether you up it, lower it, or take it out, or keep it in, basically, is where your discussion would be. It's very difficult for me to answer these because everybody works differently, and obviously I don't know if that's the way Paul would work, but I'm only going on the way I've worked in the past when there's been something that's been budgeted in the financial year already. When you get to your next financial year, you don't need to put a new proposal or a new case in because that was already made last year, if that makes sense. And we've lost Mike.
We have.
Let's keep
we're
going.
We're still for it, but so yes, that's how that
screen went dark, didn't it? Carrie. Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, sorry, he's just he's got a power cut in the house. So he's just messaged to say sorry, they've got a power cut.
Oh God.
Anyway, I just think we have to be careful about saying, well, of course we're going to have everything that we're doing this year again, because I don't think we should do that. I think we look at everything that we've got at the moment alongside other new initiatives. I don't think we just say, let's keep all that, because there might be things that we've had in there that actually have run their course and there could be a better way of doing it. So I don't think we go from this meeting saying everything in there stays. Everything in there is looked at equally alongside new projects. So it's not adding to, it's potentially replacing.
Fine. Okay, that's a good point, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that we don't know what the big leap is going to bring forward. And they might say, oh, if you did this, it would be a really good environmental thing to do. And that might cost us money. So I think we really have to make sure that we have the money to do that, the budget, to be in the budget, because it doesn't help if we don't and we can't do the stuff they're suggesting. And yeah, I think it's nice to be creative and think of other things, projects that we can do. So we're constantly rolling forward. And Mumbles can see that we're doing that as well. So I think Mike's right, that the budget needs to go up, not down.
Yeah.
Gosh, I sound rebellious.
Yeah. Brilliant. So is that, I think we've come to a natural end of that conversation. We've got some clear actions, Ian, for the next meeting. Everyone happy with that? And I'm going to move us on now to Lydia's report.
Can you hear me properly now?
Yeah, come closer to the computer, I think, Lydia.
Leaning myself right in.
You can hear Kerry fine, and it's when you talk, you're in and out, and I wondered if you're a bit further from the speaker.
Yeah. Okay. I was hoping to have. I've got a new. You know how I had the EO reports. I've got a new template that I'm hoping to put up on the website, but I can't download them yet because I need to pay for the system that I've been using. So I was hoping to share my screen, but we're not on my laptop. But I'll just verbally go through basically, since we last met, we've had, I've gone through and I'm doing a tally of the, oh, Sarah's gone as well. I know we're good. I've done a tally of how many litter picking bags we collected, because we do need to be keeping a record of that. So for example, last month in September, we didn't have a litter pick, so we didn't pick up any. And this month in October, we only had that weeding day where me and Carrie picked up some bags. So we only had two of each, two general waste and two recycling. I'm hoping to get something on the website, which, like Helen mentioned quite a long time ago, where we can have a tally of that. So it's kind of broadcasted for people. So where was I? Yeah, Jubilee Gardens funding. Me and Carrie and Kerry had a meeting today about that. So I'm hoping to start to apply for, in the next month, apply for Local Places for Nature grant for that, which should provide us with the funding for Jubilee Gardens if we're successful. But as you mentioned, Helen, like if that's unsuccessful, then maybe we could use underspend for that. But we're having a meeting with Llanfire House on Wednesday, who we're hoping to be involved with Jubilee Gardens and the redevelopment of that. Basically just to get some ideas from them and how they would like the garden to serve their needs and what they would like in it and what sort of plants they would like. Obviously, it's going to have to be shade-loving plants because of where it is. It's also quite a small space. But I think we can make it into a really nice space for them. It's just getting the ideas across, and yeah, that's something that we really have to focus our efforts on, is getting them involved and having it be quite volunteer-led, because that's something that the grant it really focuses on, is getting people involved in getting outdoors and being in nature that wouldn't normally be, and having a volunteer focus as well. So we're going to have to get quite a lot of focus from them. So the start of that will be on Wednesday when we have our kind of initial contact with them, and hopefully we can take it from there.
I think it's quite a big project, Lydia, isn't it? If I can come in, and quite an important one. So I think one of the biggest things that we need to show, or Michael is trying to come back in, and one of the biggest things that we need to show is how our smug sites are benefiting people. And this is such a brilliant example of vulnerable people. And Mike, thank you for rejoining. Honestly, if you feel you need to be with your family, that's fine.
Lots of screaming people in the dark.
So I said, Halloween comes early.
Okay,
it all looks very romantic there, Mike.
Really not when there's 4 screaming kids.
Hey, Mike, if you need to go, don't feel,
Fine.
All back on now.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Lydia was just talking about Jubilee Gardens. So Lydia, I think that's a really important project. We can't underestimate really that might be quite time consuming. But I think it is, supporting vulnerable people to use those spaces is what those spaces are about, isn't it? So I think it is important.
Well, it's not sorry, go on, Helen.
So the Local Places for Nature, what's the timescale of getting that money through, and how might that hinder the momentum that you're building up?
So the timescale, the deadline for the application is the 12th of December. And the timescale of getting the money through, I think it was March 24. So to be honest, in terms of the plans for actually planting or implementing anything, it works. Because if we were to be successful in the first round, there is a second round of funding. So if we are unsuccessful this time, we can reapply in March. So at the minute, the plan for that area is Martin's just going to get it cleared, because there's a lot of shrub and overgrowth there. It's quite overgrown. So he's going to just clear the site, basically. So we're starting from scratch. And then we're going to make a plan with the residents of Llanfire House. For those that don't know, it's a rehabilitation centre for people with mental health problems. Yeah, so hopefully we're thinking of going down the angle of a sensory garden. because the idea is it's quite a small enclosed space. It's cut off from the kind of chaos of the promenade, and it can be a space for people to go and relax, sensory garden type things in there. Lots of different colours, lots of different scents and textures and things like that. But we'll see where we go from this meeting on Wednesday. And yeah, hopefully in March, if we get the funding, we can start ordering and planting and things like that, and we can just hit the ground running in March. But yeah, you're right, it will be quite a big project. Well, it's not as big an area as Norton Nature Reserve. It's still grant funding and meeting requirements and things. Sorry, Mike, you had your hand up?
I'll bring Mike in next. I just want us to be careful that we don't end up with a huge underspend at the end of the year with a project. So with a project that could have needed some of that. So I would say, Lydia, if there's money that you need before March, where natural, would happen, if you need money, I think we should look at taking it from this year's committee, if it means maintaining a momentum or getting something that Martin needs to get the ground cleared, or let's try and spend the money we have. So don't think it does our argument for more money any favors when year after year we've got big underspends, and we just show that we can't spend it. So if you need bits of money, Lydia, in the interim to get that project going, I think we should look at using some of that £3,000 or whatever, or your own budget or Martin's own budget, to see what I mean. So let's put the application in, but let's look at using some bits of money so we get the thing moving if that's what's needed. Anyway, Mike.
Interesting.
Yeah, sorry, Helen, just
I did have a member of public talk to me about the Jubilee Gardens, actually, and they're connected to Llanfair House as well. And I think it is a really, really important project to do. So I think I also have some of my own councillor budget money left as well. So I'd be quite willing to sort of jump in there. Sorry, I've got a little monkey all over me now as well. So yeah, I think it'd be really good, and I'm happy to support that, perhaps with the remainder of my budget left as well.
Thanks, Mike. What I was going to say, Helen, was one of the things we need to consider for the application is match funding, because as you know, with every application you have an element of match funding yourself. So yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you, Mike, for volunteering to help us with some of the budget to initially get, as Helen says, the ball rolling. And then what we'll do is when we start work, because I'm going to support Lydia in doing the application process, is that obviously we'll look at the figures that we need, and then that will determine what sort of match funding we're going to be looking for.
Thank you, Kerry. Thanks, Lydia, and great stuff, Mike. Fab.
Helen, Eddie's got his hand up.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Regarding Jubilee Gardens, my concern is that Lydia mentions the chaos of the promenade. That's like people traffic as much as anything else. It's not noisy, but the noise comes from the road. Now, if there was a way of planting a barrier there that would deflect some of the noise from the road, I think that would really enhance the garden and make it much more peaceful. So something along that edge there, whether it be bamboo or something that would just break the noise pattern would I think would really help enhance the garden.
So just Kerry just suggested bamboo to me. So and then you said it.
Then it down in my notebook.
Yeah. So Martin's actually coming up with a little bit of a planting plan that he's suggesting for Wednesday, that he's going to bring to the table and suggest what he would do with that space. Obviously, we'll take on feedback from Llanfair House. From what he's told me, his suggestion is to have some sort of structure. I don't really know what he means, but it's like a fisheye type structure that instead of, because you can't block the road, he says it's like a distraction from the road. So having some sort of nice, attractive structure by the road, because you're never going to block it, you're never going to completely block the noise, but having a visually appealing structure in front of it, I think was his idea. He mentioned fisheye. I think he would have to do some drawings for me to really understand what he means. But yeah, I think it would be interesting to find out what his plans are and see where we develop from there.
Thanks, Lydia. Sarah.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, it's all great. I'm a bit worried that it's going to take up all your time again. That's my only concern, is that these things seem to sort of suck up all the time, and then there's nothing that gets done elsewhere. And that's a bit of a problem. Do you think you'll need more hours with this?
Well, we've just maxed Lydia up on her hours. haven't we?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just wondering
You've,
if you're
well,
doing
you've just made a full time, so I don't know. if it's
full time. Oh,
we can
we
give
need
it.
2 Lydias. That's the thing. We obviously need 2 Lydias.
Well, the idea with this, as I mentioned about volunteering, is that I'm going to really try and make it so there is a high volunteer input in this one, so that we're really, because we have a one certain group that's going to be involved. I really want to try and involve them as much as I possibly can, so that when it comes to actually getting things done, maybe a lot of the work can go on to them. One of the people we're meeting with on Wednesday is the maintenance and grounds person from Llanfire House. So whether that's something that he would like to take on as part of what he does, and we'll have a discussion about it and see. But I'm hoping that we can plan it so it doesn't take up all of my time, as you mentioned. But I will, if I am going up to full time, we'll see. We'll probably will have a bit more time to play with.
Okay.
So
My other concern with Jubilee is that we've been here before. They did spend
Mhm.
an absolute fortune on it, and they got the people in Llanfire House involved. So they did it for a while, and then somebody, you know what it's like in these places, somebody changes their job, and then nobody comes down anymore, and it's left, because you're left then maintaining it yourself, because they're not bothering anymore. So I'm a little concerned about it being.
we didn't have
a meeting.
Yeah, and we didn't have an EO and a grounds person at that time to
No.
kind of keep them in check and to keep checking in. And I think
Yeah.
that if they are falling behind, the grounds person can step in. And if it is they can't do it anymore, or they're struggling to do it, then I can come in and support them and see how I can support them.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
what we would do is,
Could I say the other thing? Oh, sorry, Kerry.
Yeah,
Sorry,
go on, Kerry.
it's okay.
Kerry.
What I was going to say, what I think we would do, which is really important, is we put in place with them a volunteering SLA, so it outlines our expectations and we get their input from it. And it will say something along the lines of, if volunteering desire not dwindles, but drops off, then you will notify us to give us 2 weeks notice, and then that way we can plan our workload. We've got we've got Martin in place now, but it just gives us that little bit more management. And because the problem is it's not a problem, but what you need to do when you use volunteers is have a contingency plan, because if the weather rains or whatever, volunteers won't turn up. So it's just always good to have a little bit of a contingency and backup plan to assist you with volunteers, and that's what the volunteer SLA will essentially do.
Well, yeah, you can take them to our new greenhouse to pot up some plants to plant in Jubilee Garden.
Sorry, I will mention this with regards to the greenhouse. We do need to have a look at it because there are parts missing, so we don't know whether we're going to be able to get this one erected, or whether it's something that I speak to Martin about and see if we can get some funding out of maybe his budget, or I don't know how much greenhouses are.
Okay.
We'll go from there.
The other thing I was going to say that was more positive was, I've noticed with the schools, you could involve Lydia, you could get the children litter picking with you. You can go into the school and ask if you can take a class of children somewhere to go litter picking during the school day. A lot of them are doing the green flag thing. I know Clonderrow are, and I think Whitestone do too. And they would probably be interested in doing that.
This is not specifically Jubilee Gardens, is it? You mean more broadly?
No, I mean broader, like big ones or whatever.
Yeah.
They've done them before. They love doing them, and it would be, it would be great for the school, great for that, and you could be able to tick a box about litter picking.
Let's just finish on Jubilee Gardens. So I do think it's important that we invest in this, because I think it's more important that we make good use of the sites that we've got before embarking on new ones, because I think it's not going to do anyone's reputation any good, including ours, and it's not going to bring the benefits that we wanted to in terms of nature and biodiversity by having lots of new sites and then not really using effectively the sites that we've got. So I'm glad to see this focus for Jubilee Gardens, and just keep an eye on it, Lydia. Keep us posted. There's a lot coming ahead, isn't there? Go on there, Kerry.
Sorry, just to come back to Sarah, what I will do tomorrow, Sarah, is I will circulate an email to all the schools, because we are actually a litter picking hub in the town, in the community centre now. So if the schools want to organise something themselves, they're very free to come and take our equipment, and they can do it. And then that takes the onus off Lydia having to do something when we've just been talking about worrying about Lydia's hours. So yeah, because we haven't, although we've launched, we haven't had anybody come to us yet. So I think if I get there we go, okay, get the awareness out there with the schools. They are then responsible for their children and the risk assessments and everything that goes along with it.
Brilliant. That's a great approach, actually. Right, so Jubilee Gardens, keep going, Lydia, with your list.
Next thing, the Wildflower Verge scheme. Carrie, you mentioned earlier something about taking the budget out for the grass verge scheme or something. I'm not entirely sure what the plan is with this. Has this happened before in previous years? Have we done the
what happened was, we did the bit along the prom.
Yeah.
And we did have a plan, and we got approval from Swansea Council to do more sections in Fairwood Road.
Right.
But since then, there's a couple of issues that have come up. One is that potentially, apparently, a lot of these wildflower turf sections contain plastics in the mesh that is being used. And obviously, we don't want to, to have introducing plastic into the verges. And also, and Sarah can probably add to this, our wildflower and bulb man, whose name escapes me, but anyway,
Mark Barber from Swansea Council said that in his view, because of the difficulty with the plastics and that we are actually better kind of just seeding up sections and planting bulbs, because they are a more sustainable way of bringing the same effect to the verges. So it's not so much that we're kind of not doing them, but we're not going to have it as a separate thing. I think we need to build it in to the budget for wildflowers and bulb planting.
Yeah, and so you're suggesting that we merge
that needs to be a lot bigger.
Okay, Lydia, I've got a point to make on that. Lydia, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I was just are you suggesting that in the next financial year we merge those two budgets, so we don't have a grass verge scheme, we don't just have bulb planting, we have quite a large budget, which I think it does need to be quite a bit bigger.
It does.
That includes wildflower and bulbs.
I think so. I think that's it. I think it gives us more flexibility as well.
Yeah.
But the key thing is just making sure that when we have seeded out anywhere with wildflower seeds, that Swansea Council are aware and don't just come and mow it all down.
Okay, yeah, that is a good point. And will that be in each ward? Where's gonna go? It's gonna go.
Yes, I mean the idea was the prom was the first bit in Oystermouth, Fairwood Road was the next section in West Cross, and then we'd also potentially looked at Picket Mead for Newton and somewhere along Males Road or Males Green for males. So there are areas, but if we're not specifically making it wildflower turf, as I said, we can be more flexible, do several small areas rather than one big area, or however we want to do it.
So can I come in there? So I don't think it matters the type of planting we do. I think that money was put aside for West Cross this year. And so I think we just need to agree, is all of that money going to be used in West Cross this year on whatever approach Sarah and gang feel is appropriate. I would make the point I'm really keen for Males to have it next year, because we're the only ward that has had no wildflower planted at all in the whole of Mumbles. Picket Meads have already got some. So in terms of being next on the rota, I would strongly make the point that it needs to be Males. But that's next year. So Sarah, you happy that you take that budget and you use that budget? Oh, I hear my own voice, it's horrible. Are you content with that? And in terms of your points are about a rotivator,
Yeah.
rotator, whatever it's called,
Oh,
rotivator.
yeah, rotivator it is, yeah.
So, because I think that there is a commitment amongst all councillors, like loads of us on this call would want to see more seeds and that sort of thing planted year on year. And if it becomes economical for Martin to have a rotivator, I think that's what we need to get him to have, because this isn't going away. Is we want more flowers, more biodiversity and pollinators. So, oh, sorry, Sarah, I'll put myself on mute. You unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, he'll only need to rotivate once in each area. Then when we plant it up, we leave the soil alone then and then just build on the planting. So, but I think he will need because otherwise he's going to be hiring them all the time, and he'll probably need help doing it as well. So we'll have to get some help.
Brilliant. Right. So just to be clear on actions, because time is running out. So the action is, Sarah, that money that's there for wildflower planted for West Cross, you need to plan that out. And I would say, Kerry, could you ask Martin to make a list of the equipment he feels he needs, including a rotivator? I have no clue how much something like that is. Let's ask him to make a list of the equipment he needs with a view to purchasing it in a timely way. I don't know when you plant seeds for Sarah. I don't know when Sarah will need to do that, but we need to
It'll probably have to be done in spring now. To
Okay.
get that done, it'll probably have to be done in spring next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've already said to Martin and Lydia that what we want just by Fairwood, the two big areas, is we're going to put in hardy annuals. There will be some wild, because we saw there's Achillea coming up and all sorts, but we want hardy annuals planted in as well as bulbs, because we really want the wow factor and we want the biodiversity, but we also need the bees to be fed right through the season. And if we plant the right stuff, we can get flowers even now. So that's the dream.
I love that dream. I'm with you on that dream, Eddie.
A dream.
You're on mute,
You're
Eddie.
on mute.
Yeah, well, I'd like to steal an idea from someone, I think it was up the Rhondda during COVID, that she planted bulbs on a hillside that you could see from miles around. It was in the shape of a heart. I don't know if you ever remember that. Does that ring any bells? Well, anyway, there's lots of slopes around. There's certainly one in Castlefield, as you look up towards the window, Lady Chapel window, that is just a really steep bank. And there's many others. There's some on Fairwood Road as well. To actually put something in, it's like a diagram or using letters in terms of spring bulbs like daffs that read something out. And it could have MCC, NHS, a heart, and then they just go back and they just every spring they come up. What do you think? I muted everybody.
Sorry, I'm saying I love it, but maybe not MCC. We'll never hear the end of it on Mumbles Access Group.
Yeah.
Sarah,
Yeah, I did. I was just going to say, you have to be careful about both Newton and Oystermouth, because they haven't backed out of the glyphosate spraying yet. And the last thing you need is to spend a fortune on bulbs to find that they've sprayed them so that they're nice and weed free, so they don't come back. And that would be a real wasted investment at the moment, because if we're investing a lot of money, we want to make sure they come up and spread. So I think that's a conversation we need to have with our Mumbles, our Newton and Oystermouth councillors.
And that adds to my logic of wait, males needs to be in next year in line, because obviously it's in line with that. But I'm really conscious of the time. We've only got 10 minutes left. We've on the agenda, so we won't be doing Climate League.
No. Can I really quickly just
yes, we're still with you,
do one
Lydia.
more point on my list. The litter picking hub. I know we are confirmed as a litter picking hub, but there is new waste strategies coming through from Swansea Council, which Phil Budd from Keep Wales Tidy is waiting to put us on the list to officially be on the list of litter picking hubs in Swansea until that comes through. So we are a litter picking hub and we can lend litter picks out. But I'm going to email him tomorrow and double check when this is going to happen, because he said it would be by the end of October. I'm going to wait until this new waste strategy comes out to properly publicise it, because we're not on the list that people can actually fill out the forms yet. So it can't actually happen until people can fill out the forms. So I do need to do some publicising of that, and maybe if we do try another launch event of some sort. So any ideas that people have for another launch event, we can try and organise that at some point. Yeah, so that's the litter picking hub. And then really quickly, Mumbles Green Heroes. So me and Helen had a meeting last week, was it? I can't remember. About just going through the work plan, and we've decided that we're going to do 3 of the Mumbles Green Heroes events a year if we can, and try and do them in different spots, different wards. For ones that we do, I think it was really nice to hold it in a cafe last time, and we've taken it on board that people didn't have enough networking time after the meeting, so we probably won't do it on a night where we have the environmental committee meeting again. So I'll be organising the next November one, which is on the 23rd of November, I think. We decided, so I'm going to try and organise it on that. That's not a confirmed date, but yeah. So I'm going to be. I'll share all the dates and circulate all them close to the time for that, just to let you know that there will be 3. We're going to try and do three per year, and have a different theme for them every time. So we haven't got a confirmation for the November one at the moment, but the February one will be on. We're having someone from Swansea Council come to talk about waste. And then again, it's all about waste. Yeah, so just to let you know about them.
Fab, thank you, Lydia. Carrie and Sarah, and then I just had an idea for the litter picking hub.
Right, this is just a plea. Can we? I know the Wildflower Cafe is lovely, but our carbon footprint driving us all out there and back, and it's way out the MCC area. Can we please use locations within our own MCC area? Because I just don't think it gives a very good impression of us when we're saying we're the environmental committee and we're all going to drive our cars to somewhere that's not even in MCC to have our meetings. So just can we keep it in MCC?
Yeah.
I disagree with that, and we are going to hold it on a rota, and I'm not saying I won't ever hold it there again, because I think it's only just outside the Males ward, but I think the nature of the venue being so wildlife friendly, we are going to have it on a rota. So I think we're looking at Mumbles Coffee, who've expressed an interest, Underhill. So there's a number of locations that I can hear my voice and I hate it. I'm sorry. I hate my own voice. There's a number of locations that Lydia and I have looked at. We're definitely having it on a rota. Wildlife, that'll be once in a blue moon, but I don't want to rule it out completely, because I think as a venue, it's so much in keeping with some of the activities that we're doing. But the next 2 this year won't be there anyway, if that provides some reassurance. Sarah.
Hi, same thing actually. I'll come to ones I can walk to, but that's too far out for me, so I'll have to put my apologies in.
And like me, you have to walk to the I can't walk to the Ostream. I just think that's a bit of hypocrisy. It's fine if you live in the middle of Mumbles. If you don't, like I have to drive.
That is in the Mumbles ward, though, is it? It's not
only
even
just outside.
Oh.
I have to drive to get to Ostream.
I couldn't even get a bus there. That's just so.
I can't get a bus to the Ostream.
Really?
I can get an e-cargo bike.
Okay. Well.
So I feel that's a bit like.
I totally get advance, because I will be able to make that one.
I think you know, lots of people have to drive to get to the Osprey, more have to get to Mumbles Coffee, Wonderhill. So I think it's just 6 of one.
No, but we try not to, don't we? We try not to do that kind of thing. I know, yes, if you feel you have to drive to Osprey, but you know, we try not to do. That's the whole thing. Tell you what, why don't we ask the Big Leap what they think about it and see what they come up with, and we'll follow that and be as carbon neutral as we can. But I understand what you mean. Perhaps we can do one in West Cross somewhere in the community centre, because at least you wouldn't have that far to come then.
Yeah, I think this is kind of out of proportion. We're talking about somewhere that's on Klein Common. We're not talking about taking you all to Neath or to Pontypridd or somewhere that's far. We're still talking about something that's in the locality. But I want to move us on because we're 4 minutes to 8 and we're meant to be finishing at 8.
Okay, well, thanks anyway for listening.
Carrie, I know you've got your hand up as well. Is it on the same issue or is there a new hand?
Just very briefly to say, it's not just about us councillors, it's about our residents, and our residents expect to see meetings taking place within the MCC area so that they can attend them. You know, Males people maybe might not come to Mumbles, but there again, Mumbles people might not go to Males. We just need to make sure that we keep them within the area, that our residents can see that there is something near to them they can get to. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
With the balance of venues that we're thinking of, I think that will be achieved anyway. And we did do a survey. We sent a survey around on Eventbrite right after, which had really positive feedback. But Lydia, how many things have you got left on your list?
That's everything from me.
I had an idea about the litter picking, right? It's going to be controversial. I wonder whether, right? So this is controversial. I don't know whether it's going to work, right? I wonder whether, instead of kind of putting the onus on schools and things, whether we ask all councillors, all 18 councillors, to come along to a litter pick, and we ask them to bring family, friends, you know, because Amelia did, you know, she got quite a lot of people to the planting. So it's a show of support from 18 councillors, and we really ask them, I don't know, Kerry, whether we can say they have to, but the focus is on 18 councillors showing support for this, not just the usual ones, which is our slot, and asking them to bring their friends and family. So you've already got 18 plus, you know, a couple of extras, because otherwise I just really feel it's on us all the time to be making the effort, and that's not how it should be. Do you think that's realistic, Kerry?
We can put the request out, however, how well received that will be, I do not know. So we can definitely try. There's no harm in trying. But yeah, we can have a chat about that at a later date, Helen, if you because of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sunday would be better for me, I have to say, because Saturdays are going to be busy from now on.
What did you say? Sunday, sorry, is it?
Sunday
They're good for me as well. It doesn't have to be immediately, and it has to be after the point at which Lydia mentioned anyway. But I just do think it would create a good, a sort of maybe a more collaborative feeling, and it's going to be easy. Otherwise, I think it's really hard for Lydia and our little group here to always get a lot of volunteers along, and it puts the emphasis on the wrong place. Well, it should be both, shouldn't it? Anyway, maybe you can have a few conversations, Kerry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there anything left on Lydia's list? Okay. The only other item, well, there was another item, but I think we haven't got time for it really. We never get to it, so I'm determined to put it on the top of the agenda for November, is the committee plan, because Lydia and I had quite a long meeting the other Friday where we talked through the bits of the work plan which are coming up later in the year, like the buzz and bloom, those sorts of things, and having clear ideas. So Lydia has got plans for those things. I just think we've run out of time to cover that tonight. But Lydia, whether we can cover that at the November meeting?
Yeah, maybe if we put it earlier on in the agenda, or if I have it as part of my update. I think if I can circulate an actual document that's just my update, then it will be easier if you can just read it. So I'll get those documents out. Yeah, and then we can go through that as part of my update of my update, and I can talk about plans for the next steps and stuff. So we
Yeah.
can try that next one in the next one.
Yeah, thanks. I do think we need to move it up because it's been on the agenda now for the last few times, and it's right at the end of a really long agenda. We never quite get to it. But, you know, to reassure the committee, I have had, you know, really positive conversations with Lydia, and there are plans in place and thoughts which we wanted to run past you tonight. So we'll get that update out, and then you can have a look at it and if any questions. The last item is carbon literacy, and this was a point that Sarah was making. Sorry, you still got your hand up, Sarah. So Sarah, you were making, I was making a similar, no, it's not, it's fine. I was encouraging you to come in really on this. Is, again, we've run out of time tonight. Maybe we need to come to this after we have the presentation on the big climate leap, which is kind of what we were intending tonight, so that our proposals around carbon literacy are framed within that wider plan. Because I think, you know, there's certainly Sarah and myself got, you know, feel that there should be, you know, more carbon literacy, you know, eco literacy across MCC, and it doesn't just reside in a really small group of us lot. And I think there's real interest from people like Mike and from Rian and others, Tim. Are you happy if we all put this to November? Lydia Carey?
I recently did carbon literacy training, and as part of that, I have to submit a basically a pledge. So I have to submit 2 actions that we will actually do and achieve. So what I'm going to do, I need to submit that by the 30th of October. What I'll do is I'm going to write that, and I'll circulate it through the environmental committee, and you can just have a look at those actions, and then you can just go from there. And that's just I just thought I'd say that as part of that agenda point.
Before you when you finish the meeting, could I just ask you all to stay on for 2 minutes, if that's okay?
Yeah. So there's no AOB. Lydia, is there anything more that you wanted to cover before I go to anybody else? Is there any other comment or thought that anyone wants to make before we close the meeting on anything that's been on the agenda tonight? Let me just check. Ian is still there. Yeah. All right, Ian. Okie dokie. Thanks all. Thanks everybody for your commitment as ever. Fantastic input. I'm going to close this meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to a halt, to a close.